And good afternoon. Welcome to the booth on KDX AM 1590. Very excited again for you to joining us, making us part of your day. I have the honor and privilege of being with the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Dunklin County, Sheriff Nick Darter. Sheriff, welcome to the booth.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
And again, this is Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. You're talking with Sheriff Nick Darter. Just kind of checking in with the sheriff, figuring out what's going on in the world of law enforcement. As indicated, he is the chief law enforcement officer in all of Dunklin County. Anything involving law enforcement goes through the man in front of me, and we're very lucky to have him at the helm. Sheriff, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm born and raised in New Madrid, from New Madrid County. Graduated in 2007. Went to college, found my wife, met my wife, met my wife. And I'm happily married, got 2 kids, and we reside in Malden. My wife's a school teacher, and I've got a 9-year-old and getting ready to be a 14-year-old.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. As the sheriff indicated, he found his wife while he was at Three Rivers, and that would be Mrs. Maudlin, as she used to be known. Is that correct?
Yes, formerly from Campbell, born and raised in Campbell.
And Sheriff, while you've been in law enforcement a long time, I'd like to go back, and I know that everybody wants to ask you about this, but I think this is one of the most amazing stories. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and your growing up. I mean, for those that don't know you, your father works at the New Madrid County Sheriff's Department. He has for a long time, an excellent man. I've known him for years. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, so I'm one of 18. My mother and father adopted 17 kids, had one of their own. My family ranges ethnicity, health-wise. My mom's raised kids with spina bifida. I mean, you name it. She's raised.
Sure.
I mean, she's always worked, and everybody says, "Well, what does your mom do for a living?" Well, she raised 18 kids.
Absolutely.
You know, so my dad for 42 years worked at Miranda, and he's had a post license, a police officer's license since 1992. During the time he worked at Miranda, he always kept a reserve with the city of New Madrid or the county, and he provided the funds to raise 18 kids. If you can imagine, raising 18 kids and what that would entail, there's a lot of feeding that's got to go on there. So, I mean, that's really the gist of it. 18 brothers and sisters, or 17 brothers and sisters. So it was never a dull moment at the house.
I can imagine, thinking back, I was an only child, and everybody says, well, that's why you're like you are. And I said, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but most of the time it's not. And again, we're here on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Sheriff Nick Darter, talking a little bit about his 17 brothers and sisters, a little bit about his life. Sheriff, how did you get involved in law enforcement?
Through my father, obviously. He when he wasn't working at Miranda, if there was a shift short on the weekend or whatever, he'd go. They'd call him. He'd go out and work. I think the thing that really inspired me one day is we were all at home. Dad come in. He got dressed in his uniform. He walked back out. A couple hours later, he came back in covered head to toe in mud. Well, obviously, I was curious. I said, well, what happened? There was a homicide, and I don't remember what year this was. Anyway, they were looking for the suspect down in New Madrid County, right there next to the Mississippi River. He got down in the Mississippi mud, and they went out searching for him. Well, my dad's the one that found him. So I think that's the moment that's what I want to do when I get older.
Absolutely. And a little bit, again, we're here with Welcome to the Booth on Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking with Sheriff Nick Darter of Dunklin County. Sheriff, prior to being elected, tell the folks a little bit about your law enforcement career. What did you first start? Where did you go? And what have you done? Obviously, you've been Dunklin County Sheriff since January of the 2025. It seems like a lot longer than that.
It does. It's been a long 8 going on 9 months. Right. So I started my law enforcement career in 2011 in Malden as a patrolman. I kind of worked my way up through the ranks there. I left in 2018 as a sergeant and I decided I need to quit being greedy because it wasn't work for me. I enjoyed doing it. So I left Malden, went to Mag 7, and made some good money there at Mag 7. However, my girls come to me and they said, we're ready for you to go back to law enforcement. I said, absolutely. I said, we're not going to be able to do as much. So I left Mag 7, come back as a captain at Malden, and have been there since then.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter, Dunklin County Sheriff, on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Sheriff, I know that your family is very important to you. I see a lot of stuff that you post and things of that nature. Your girls are getting older. What kind of activities are they involved in?
Well, I don't know of any activities they're not involved in. They stretch me thin. My oldest is currently cheerleading. She's getting ready for basketball. She plays volleyball, softball, and on top of all that, she plays piano. So we spend a week in Dexter at piano practice. My youngest is she's into cheerleading right now. So we come to Kennett twice a week for cheerleading, and she's in the competition cheer. So that takes a lot of our time, away from home. I don't know why I own a house, because I'm never there.
I understand.
But we're always on the run.
Then again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Talking a little bit about the sheriff, his background, a little bit about his family. Sheriff, you indicated that your wife, I believe, is she a teacher? Is that correct?
She is. This is her first year at kindergarten. She's been a teacher for 10 years.
And I believe school started, is it last week?
Last Tuesday, yeah.
Last Tuesday. How's it been at the Sheriff Nick Darter household with the new change to kindergarten?
Well, it's still busy every day. This weekend was a peaceful weekend. It wasn't a normal weekend, but the time that we spent at home together was phenomenal. She's adjusting to kindergarten. She one of her biggest complaints was, well, you can't go tell a kindergartner go get on bus number 2. It don't work that way. You've got to direct them and show them and get them to bus number 2. So with that though, she enjoys it. So it's easy for her. She's enjoying looking forward to Christmas and them kids coming back from Christmas break and being excited to see her.
Absolutely.
So she's leaving 5th grade, and those 5th graders are not so excited to see the teacher when they come back to school. It's we're back at school, So she's excited for Christmas break to get here, and she gets see her kids come back.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Dunklin County, Sheriff Nick Darter. Sheriff, in delving into some issues, and I know this is not a gotcha session or something like that, and it's what you're doing. One of the things that went on along during the campaign and before was the concern for the folks in the south end of the county, Cardwell, Arbird, in regards to it's so difficult for us to pay for law enforcement because of the number of hours that you have to be certified. And it's almost impossible for these small towns, based upon their tax base, to find law enforcement 24 hours a day. I know that you've come up with some ideas to try to alleviate that. What are some of the things that you're doing to try to help the south end? And in fact, you also, it's already in place in Holcomb. It worked very well. Kind of explain to the listeners some of the ideas you have.
Well, so I've went to all the south end towns that either didn't have a police department or one officer. Well, it's hard for one person to cover a 24-hour shift 7 days a week. Currently, the sheriff's department has 3 officers during the day and 2 at night. Well, we're busy 24/7. At nighttime, it's hard for 2 deputies to cover the entire county from the Arkansas state line to the Stoddard County line. So with that being said, I went to all 4 towns on the south end and proposed to them, said, hey, this is the bare minimum of what a deputy costs me. Insurance, that's not counting the equipment. That's not counting the cars. Well, it was counting some of the equipment, but not all of it.
Right.
So I come up with that number. I said, can you guys split 4, between you 4, can you split 2 deputies? Initially, everybody's like, we need to talk about it. I said, that's fine. I went to council meetings. Ultimately, everybody decided, yay, this is going to benefit our towns. There's only one town that has yet to commit, and that's Arbird. I really don't know what their holdup is. They said they don't have the funds. I've heard that they don't want to turn over their law enforcement powers, I guess, to the sheriff's office. I really don't know what their hang up is. They keep saying, well, we've got a store coming open and let's see what the store does before we commit. The other 3 towns they're on board. They even want me to try to figure out a way to get it worked out to where they can still do this, but financially, I told them, I said, well, I gave you the bare bones, so that's kind of where we're at right now. And that would put 2 more deputies on the sheriff's department where we'd have 3 people on every shift. And ultimately you'd have a south end car, a mid car, north car.
Correct.
That would help out not only the sheriff's department, but it would give that south end more coverage 24/7.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking about some of the issues regarding law enforcement in the county. Sheriff, I know that the city of Holcomb actually came and implemented the deputy/officer system. In your opinion, how's that working?
It's phenomenal. I mean, we've got Hunter Sutton with that, and Hunter's a phenomenal guy. He makes it a point when he's working to visit the schools, to visit Holcomb School. He walks around. He tries to run as much traffic in Holcomb as he can. It's been a plus. It's benefited the sheriff's department, but I think it also benefits the city of Holcomb as well.
Absolutely. I know that the city of Holcomb is very grateful, because one thing that you can say is if you know that there's not 24-hour coverage in a town, it's very problematic, and it's very, how can I say this? It's not a very easy, peaceful feeling for the citizens. And
that's what most of the mayors in those small towns, they say, our town's going to dwindle down to nothing because we have no law and order in this town. Nobody wants to move here because they don't feel safe living here. And so, I mean, that's ultimately that is the truth. And most of them small towns are on board with that project too. And again, we're here on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to the sheriff, the chief law enforcement officer in Dunklin County, Sheriff Nick Darter, talking a little bit about some of the issues. Sheriff, how many current deputies do you currently have on the sheriff's office? So on the road, we've got 10 deputies. I've got two admin in the office, and I've got a court bailiff. So ultimately 14 deputies, counting myself. And again, a lot of people may not know, and again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on KDX AM 1590. The sheriff, not only in having to investigate all crimes in the county, handle all crimes in the county, also has to do paper service, which is if there's a civil complaint against someone, serve that individual. And also you have the duty of running a jail, and you also have the duty of providing court security for the court system. Is that correct? Yes. So you got a lot of irons in the fire, to say the least. Absolutely. And I noticed in the paper that you're currently looking for a jail administrator. Yes. And not to steal the thunder or anything like that, are you still looking for someone? So the application process hasn't closed. It's going to close Friday, and at that point, we'll start our interviews and go from there. And again, I've talked to tons of sheriffs. Again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. I've talked to tons of sheriffs throughout my time practicing here in Southeast Missouri, and 100% of them say that the biggest problem or nightmare they have is running that jail. Absolutely. And just kind of explain to us some of the issues that you come across when you're trying to staff a jail and keep all those inmates. And how many inmates how many can we house in Dunklin County? We can house 186. We currently have 181 as I left this afternoon. And that's kind of been our magic number all year. We did drop down to 160 less than 30 days ago. We're right back up to 181. Our average this year's averaged 185 all year long. Staff in the jail, the pay's not the best. It's not the worst. That's something that Sheriff Bob Holder has worked on getting up, and currently I think the starting pay is $17.60 something. So it's not, like I said, it's not the worst. It's not the best. But there's not very many applicants out there that want to work in the jail. If they want to get in law enforcement, they want to be on the road. They want to go out chasing bad guys and doing all the fun stuff. In my opinion, I think you should start in the jail and work your way up, and that way you at at the end of your service, you can say, well, I started at the bottom and worked my way all the way up.
Absolutely. And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on KDX AM 1590. Welcome to the booth with Daren Todd. How many current employees do we have in the Dunklin County Jail?
19.
Does that count the jail administrator as well?
That does count the jail administrator as well.
And it's your duty to be in charge of all that. How would you say the first 6, 7, 8 months of running a jail, how's that experience been for you?
Well, day 3, I went back and we did cell searches. I said, from the beginning, I want to get in there and kind of lay my ideas out there.
Correct.
And, well, it kind of backfired on me. We threw a bunch of stuff away that inmates had bought with their own money. Doing the right thing, I contacted our commissary person and said, hey, I'm going to send you a list. We need this stuff sent back to these inmates because ultimately it was their property that I threw away, that I was unaware that was on commissary, but it is what it is. And we made that right. We went through every pod, got a list of all the stuff, gave that stuff back to the person. But I mean, you're dealing with adults that are in trouble for whatever crime they committed. So with that being said, you're going to get lied to. It's no different than working down the street. People's going to lie to you. They're going to make stuff up. You got to read in between the lines, but at the same time, you've got to look out for their safety as well. So that's juggling that all it's been an experience for myself.
And again, we're here on KDX AM 1590, and welcome to the booth with Daren Todd with the Sheriff Nick Darter, Dunklin County. And Sheriff, I know that you talked a little bit about your past, and you indicated that you worked at Mag 7. How long did you work at Mag 7?
A year and a half.
And you said at some point your daughter said, you know what, Dad, you just don't appear like you're being very happy about doing that. We appreciate you working hard for us. Maybe it's the time for a change. Is that correct?
Well, when I started at Mag 7, I was an hourly. I was working the floor. 6 months into it, a supervisor's position opened up in the pot room. Like a goofball, I took it. I applied for it, and they offered me the position. Well, that turned a 12-hour day into multiple 16-hour days, and I was at work more than I was at home. So that's kind of what broke the camel's back. They knew when I was in law enforcement, they could come to my job, and I could go eat. I was a little bit more free, closer to home, around them more often. There, you couldn't do that.
Absolutely. And we're getting here on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd and KDX AM 1590. Sheriff Nick Darter talking a little bit about law enforcement. Sheriff, another one of the major situations you have to deal with is budgeting. You have to deal with the county commission. You have to budget for all of the deputy salaries, all their equipment, the jail's needs, the administrative needs, things of that nature. Tell us, the listeners, a little bit about that experience. How's that going?
Well, it's going. So far it's going pretty good. I feel like I get a print off every month of where I stand at on my budget, and I'm doing pretty good. The things that I didn't think about is the accidents, the random pop-ups, here and there. So that's kind of set me back a little bit, but I think I can make up for the long stretch here at the end and get everything back in line and better prepare for next year. So I've worked with budgets before. I've never done a budget. So that was an experience. But working with the county commission, they've been great to me, great to my office. I've helped them out a little bit. They've helped me out. So I've got a very good working relationship with county commissioners.
And that's very good. The county commission, the 3 individuals that are currently on the county commission, has a lot of insight in the ability of the sheriff's office to address their budget. And I know that Ron Huber and Patrick McCaney and Don Collins have been there for quite a while. Has there been any issues that you've thought about that you would like to address with the county commission in the future that you're like, you know what, we really need to plan for this or something of that nature?
So they know which we talked that first week of January, and I said, I'm 36 years old, nothing against Sheriff Holder. I'd like to bring a lot of new things to the sheriff's department. We sit down, we talked about that. They understood that. I think they were prepared for that for the most part. And there's just some little things, nothing major, line items on the budget. You think you're budgeting for 40-something employees, and there's a line item for this, there's a line item for that, and that's all good. But we can break it down and simplify those line items, and that's what my plans are for next year's budget.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking about his experiences here as the sheriff in Dunklin County. And you mentioned a name in the past that a lot of people have some great reverence for, and as well they should, and that's Sheriff Bob Holder. Sheriff Holder was the sheriff here for many, many, many years. Well respected man. And I know the answer to this question, but I feel like I need to ask it. How was he to you when you first got elected? Did he assist you tremendously?
Absolutely. He told me, anything you need to know, you ask me. And still to this day, if you need something, call him. He'll answer on the first, if not second ring, for sure. And
in fact, Sheriff Holder, he also, after the election in August, I think, did he also bring you on as a deputy? Is that correct?
Yes, he did.
And you were hired, and that gave you some experience working on the road. And I think, not to answer your questions that I'm asking, but while you were doing that 4 or 5 months, did you have an opportunity to go and see everything that you're fixing to be in charge of?
Yes, he let me. I mean, he pretty much gave me free range. He said, "You do what you want. If you got questions, ask me. We'll get you." And I told him, I said, "Well, I want to work back in the jail. I want to work up for. I want to go to some courts. I want to get out on the south end of the county. I want to travel." And he said, "You do what you want. You got questions, ask." And I had several questions, and he answered every one of them for me. So,
and I think, again, we're here on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590 with the Sheriff Nick Darter. And again, I can't explain the how lucky we were as a county to have Sheriff Holder as a sheriff for so long. But like you indicated, I think you're doing a good job. You're bringing in a lot of new things, new ideas. What are some of the newer things that you're really wanting to focus on that you think, hey, I want to really focus on this as a newer kind of implementation at the sheriff's office?
Just being community oriented, being involved in the communities, getting with our schools. I just talked to the juvenile officer today, and she's getting some dates set aside where we can go, the sheriff's department, along with the juvenile office, and talk to each school in the county, talk to them about cell phones and just trying to make them aware. We did it last year. We're going to do it this year. Just trying to make them aware of things not to do.
Correct.
Most of them know already, but they still need that reminder.
Absolutely.
Being involved with our schools, being involved with our communities. If there's an event, somebody from the sheriff's office will be there unless there's something going on.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And one thing I'll say, Sheriff, is last fall, it was the spring. It all runs together. We had an opportunity. The district tournament was held at Zenith. I was lucky enough to broadcast some of the games on the Boot Hill Broadcasting Company, and I know that you were there every night.
Yes, sir.
And there was a large presence from the sheriff's office there every night. And it was a lot of people really appreciated that. They like the fact that the sheriff's office, when there's major events in our town, you're going to be there to support the citizens and make sure everything goes smoothly. Correct?
Absolutely. And I enjoy a good basketball game every now and again, or football or baseball, whatever it may be. The school reached out to the sheriff's office and said, "Hey, can you send some guys to this tournament? There's some pretty good potential games that's going to take place." They knew they were going to have a full house. I said, "Well, how many you want?" He said, "Well, we'll take as many as you can give us." So I sent out a message, and we had a good amount of officers decide to show up and not just support the local schools, but support their communities as well.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth, KDX AM 1590. Sheriff, one thing I was kind of interested in is a lot of counties, have what's called a school resource officer. Mm-hmm. I think maybe Malden might have one.
Malden has two.
But I'm not aware of any other school districts having that. Is that a priority or something you'd like to reach out and kind of address for the school system?
Well, initially that was my first thing that I was going to do starting January 1st. However, I was overwhelmed with I think the good Lord threw everything at me at first, and I say everything. He threw a lot at me, not everything. So that's something that I'd like to go around to the school districts, kind of talk to the school districts. Malden pays their school resource officers. As far as I know, they're the only school in Dunklin County that has resource officers. Kennett has a DARE officer, but he teaches DARE. He goes to school, teaches DARE. They don't have anybody there during school hours all the time. There are schools in the county that would love to have an SRO. Financially, I think it's a financial burden on those schools. So that's something that after I got started, and I said, well, I need to try to get a couple more deputies to give the citizens of Dunklin County the full coverage that they deserve. That was my next plan, was to start with those schools and say, hey, what can we do to help you guys? What can you guys do to help us? Whether it's put an officer in every school in the county, the school pays for them, they pay their year's salary, but during the summertime they come work at the sheriff's office. So I'm still trying to work out some kinks before I address those school districts, just to see kind of where they're at financially, see if that's something they'd be interested in trying to work out.
And again, we're here with Nick Darter, the sheriff of Dunklin County. Welcome to the booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And Sheriff, one other thing that I'm kind of interested in is we talked a little bit about school resource officers and the need for those, I think, in some of the other towns other than Malden has too. What's the situation with you talking with schools about active shooters, also the teachers on campus having firearms themselves? Are you aware of all that? I'm sure you are. And kind of what's your stance on all of that?
So I think if the teacher's comfortable to carry a firearm, I think if the teacher goes through the proper training, I'm all for it. All the schools have been very upcoming and saying, hey, this is who's carrying, this is what's going on. They've invited the sheriff's department along with local authorities to their active school shootings. I've had several schools reach out to me at the beginning of the year or this summer for that class, that active shooter class. I pointed them in the right direction. We've been to several different schools during their active shooter training, and I encourage my deputies to walk around in those schools and just kind of get the general layout of those schools. So if something ever happened, they'd kind of know where what was in every school.
Absolutely. And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Dunklin County. Welcome to the booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And Sheriff, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, you indicated that you kind of have two admin officers that are kind of working with you on a daily basis. Kind of explain to the listeners kind of the hierarchy, because every sheriff has their own situation. I know that I believe, and again, if I'm wrong, restate this, you're obligated to appoint a chief deputy, and then you can have the administrative staff as you wish. Is that correct?
Correct.
Kind of explain to the listeners a little bit about what the hierarchy of the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office is.
So under the sheriff, you've got the chief deputy, which is Bobby Jones. He left Malden. He was assistant chief of police at Malden. His job is solely the deputies. The deputies answer to him, and he makes sure everything paperwork-wise, report-wise, is getting to the courts properly. He's a big guy on grants. He does all of our grants for us. And then under him, you've got Lieutenant Joe Beth Patterson, who basically handles the civil side. So the chief deputy handles my criminal side. The lieutenant handles all the civil side, and she does a phenomenal job at that. She keeps me informed of the civil side. So.
And again, we're here on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Sheriff Nick Darter a little bit about the law enforcement breakdown in regards to the administration. And Sheriff, the one thing that I always thought was amazing is, we were very lucky. We had Sheriff Bob Holder. We also had Chief Deputy Wally Pointer, who was truly amazing. But I'm very excited to know that you've brought in Bobby Jones as the chief deputy. Bobby was an outstanding law enforcement man. He still is well respected in the area for his knowledge. And I think, without trying to steal anybody's thunder, but will that go back to a lot of Chief Mitchell there in Malden?
I think Chief Mitchell and former Chief Bullock both. I think they we've both worked for both of them.
I understand.
And both of them are phenomenal guys. And both of them has taught us quite a bit too.
And again, we're here on Welcome to the Booth with Sheriff Nick Darter on KDX AM 1590. Sheriff, obviously a lot of the concern is finding qualified candidates to be deputies for the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office. I believe, are you currently full or do you have any openings?
We've only had one opening all year.
And has that currently been taken?
Yes.
And let me ask you this, Sheriff. In the event that the towns in the south end, the four that we talked about, and I'm assuming it's Zenith, Hornersville, Cardwell, and Arbor, does come to the table and say, hey, we can fund 2 more deputies, are you going to be able to find 2 qualified deputies that will be able to fill those positions?
And that's the thing with the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office. They've never lacked in deputies. They've got everybody that works for the Sheriff's Office has 10 plus years on the job. They don't leave. The deputies don't leave. But yes, it's not simple to find applicants with experience, and that's on the Sheriff's Department side. That's hard to find an applicant that is road ready. Instead of, now people's hiring people right out of the academy and they're putting them right on the road. The Sheriff's Office, I just don't feel like can afford that right now, because that's going to take away from somebody training that deputy as well. But yes, there are applicants out there. The last application pool we had several qualified candidates apply for the job.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter, talking a little bit about the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office. He's talked a little bit about some of the things that he's implemented. And one thing that I know a lot of people have asked me about, and you've even discussed in the past, the Sheriff's Office in a lot of areas around has what's called specific detectives. Detectives who are just working during the day, who do nothing. Some of them wear plain clothes, who go and interview because the numerous calls that you get is unbelievable. When you're trying to patrol, you're trying to take a report, you're trying to then chase down that lead. Kind of where's the Sheriff's Office, and where is your thoughts in regards to the detectives down the road? To
have a detective would be awesome. We don't currently have a detective. We just don't have the manpower to dedicate one person solely to that job. However, on the flip side of that, every one of my deputies are very capable of doing their own investigations. Most of them work their cases from the time they get that initial call all the way to the time that somebody's arrested and charges are sent to the prosecutor's office. And they do a fine job at it. I'd hate to take that away from them, but I think a detective, an investigator that solely works Monday through Friday, because there's a lot of stuff that happens at night that nighttime deputy can't get. So he puts that off on a daytime deputy, and then that daytime deputy's only getting bits and pieces of that information to work the case. So to have somebody dedicated solely to work any case, whether it's a child case or an assault case or robbery case, having that one person that could dedicate their Monday through Friday to get a hold of those businesses that's only open during the daytime, or get a hold of those people that's only available during their daytime would be phenomenal. And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter, the duly elected Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Dunklin County, on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And I know, Sheriff, this is not a gotcha session by any means. This is some questions that people ask, and I think you've come forward and said, we would like to do a lot of things. Obviously, we don't have a finite amount. We don't have an unlimited amount of money. We kind of have to prioritize, and we're doing what we need to do. Along there for a time, it was we want 24-hour police protection, and now we have that. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. We've got 4 shifts, 4 shifts. 2 shifts consist of 3 deputies, and then 2 other shifts consist of 2 deputies each. And as we indicate, as you slowly get into it more and more, and you look and see where your budget is and what you need to do, you have a lot. There's the SRO piece that you'd like to address with some schools. Is that correct? There's also a possible a detective or 2. Is that correct? That could also assist. And again, you're very lucky with Chief Deputy Bobby Jones, who's an outstanding report writer, an outstanding investigator, and an outstanding officer there while he's in Malden. So we're excited to have him. And then, of course, Lieutenant Patterson. She's done an excellent job. She did learn under Sheriff Bob Holder and under Chief Deputy Wally Pointer, and was, Sheriff Holder's chief deputy there at the end. So we're extremely excited about all those things. Sheriff, and again, we're here on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590 with Sheriff Nick Darter.
the Dunklin County Sheriff. Sheriff, what are some of the things that you are really, really wanting to focus in on here in the fall and the winter months of your first year in office?
Just maintaining what I've got so far. I've like the jail. Like I said, the jail's starting to line out. Once I get my jail administrator locked in and we all get on the same page, I think everything will line out. What I've worked on most of the year so far is our jail policy and procedure book. I finished that, got it out to everybody. Now I'm working on the deputies' policy and procedure book. I'm taking a 6,000 page book and trying to condense it down into 2,000 pages that will cover the deputies and the jail staff all at the same time.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth on KDX AM 1590, talking a lot about the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff, and back in the when I first started practicing law, I know that the Sheriff's Office, the deputies all owned their own vehicles and had to buy their own equipment. And that is not the case now, is it?
That is not the case now.
Just kind of in a rough estimate, how many vehicles are currently under your care, would you say, in the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office?
27-ish or so.
And those vehicles are all equipped for the deputies. There's also transport vans, things of that nature.
Correct.
One thing that we didn't talk about is in the event that someone is sentenced to the Missouri Department of Corrections, you also are the ones who's responsible for transportation of the prisoners, not just to the DOC, but where are some of the other places you have to take them?
The hospital, the dentist. I mean, you name it. I've taken inmates to funerals before. So, I mean, if you name it, they're just like your average person. They get sick, they've got to go to the hospital. They get sentenced, they got to go to prison. So, I mean, if they've got to go, we've got to take them.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter from Dunklin County Sheriff's Office, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Dunklin County on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Sheriff, one thing that a lot of people want to know about, and I think you have an individual dedicated to this, the influx of fentanyl and drugs. Mm-hmm. Is there someone from the sheriff's office who's designated just to kind of handle that particular situation and crime?
So we do have a single deputy that's dedicated to the SEMO Drug Task Force, and she does a phenomenal job. A lot of her stuff don't get broadcasted. It don't get shared with everybody because she's doing multiple investigations that some last month, some last years. We currently did a search warrant last week that we got some suspected fentanyl off the streets, and it was a pretty good pop.
And we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth on KDX AM 1590, talking a lot about law enforcement and a lot about the future plans of the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff, if you were to rate yourself for the first 8 months, and I know this is a difficult question, and I'm just going to say, first of all, I'm going to give you a 10, isn't that right, Maureen? My producer is absolutely thumbs up. He loves the sheriff. Again, the one thing that I've always known about you, Sheriff, is when you make a mistake, you admit it, and you man up. I'm not trying to be, I know I'm not supposed to say that. That's not politically correct. But you take full responsibility, and you address it. So what would you give yourself? And you talked about some of the things that you were not happy about that you've changed. Where do you think you're at in regards to the first 8 months or so of your tenure?
Are we ranking this out of 10?
Yes, we're gonna. Apparently, we're always supposed to do 10. My parents only ranked me out of 5 because I was not very tall.
Well, that sounds like a good number to go with. I'm gonna go with a 5.
Well, I respect that, but I think you're a little low, Sheriff. So we're gonna move on. And again, if you don't know Sheriff Darter, extremely humble. Sheriff, one thing that we haven't talked about, and I know that we need to, is I believe you're also very passionate about your church. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely.
I think you're a member of Lynn Oak. Would you like to tell the people a little bit about Lynn Oak?
Well, I'm currently a deacon at Lynn Oak General Baptist Church in Clarkton. Me and my wife started attending that church. I couldn't even tell you when. Her grandpa went to that church, so when we got married and we got together, we started going with her grandpa, and it felt like home. I was born and raised Catholic. I didn't get married in the Catholic church, so they kind of said, "Oh no, you can't be Catholic no more." So, me and my wife, we started attending. We said we want to raise our family in a church, and that church is just, it's a loving church. It welcomed us with open arms, and we've been there ever since. We're both very involved in our church. On Wednesday night, I do our youth, our fifth through eighth grade, and we've got our church is growing. We did a remodel a year and a half ago. It's growing. Our pastor is a phenomenal guy. Steve Watkins moved down here from Memphis, Tennessee, and is just a phenomenal guy.
And again, here we're on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Sheriff Nick Darter, the Dunklin County Sheriff, a little bit about law enforcement, a little about the sheriff. Sheriff, one thing I've noticed, and I think everyone will agree, is you have a couple of passions. Obviously, the first is your family, but also I've noticed that you are not afraid to cook some ribs and some. Do you also like to cook some chicken? Some fish.
Fish. Yeah, I'm not the best at cooking chicken, believe it or not.
Oh, now, Sheriff.
Now I can cook some fish. I'm not really the smoker. I've got a buddy of mine, Russell Miller. He's the one that does he does the barbecue part. I do all the frying part. So.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter, talking a little bit about the sheriff. Extremely great guy in regards to the things that he does for his community as well. Sheriff, you indicated that your philosophy on cooking is, I think this is fascinating. Are you a dry rub or a wet rub on your sauce for your ribs?
I'm a wet guy for my ribs.
Absolutely.
That's just me. And
you indicated that you had a couple guys that help you cook. Tell me a little bit about who your partners in crime is. Do you have a name for your cooking?
No, we do not. He's the brains behind it all. I just show up and I'm the runt worker. I run around, do whatever he needs me to do. Russell Miller and Levin Miller, both from Alden, both of them a heart bigger than this room. They've got a passion to serve. Russell used to be an officer of the law. Now he works for the state. And his brother, both of them give you shirt off their back. Anything that they can do to help their community or to help their neighbor or whatever, they'll do it in a heartbeat.
And again, we're here on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Sheriff Nick Darter. Sheriff, I was interviewing some people from down in Cardwell, and they were talking about the Cardwell Cotton Festival that's coming up, and they said that you were a very active member in that. In fact, I think the car show, you were one of the leading judges who was down there, and I think they also named it the Sheriff's Choice Award. Is that correct?
They did do that.
Tell us a little bit about your interaction with, obviously being from the north end of the county. A lot of people think north end, south end, but we're one big county.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about how you connected that divide between the north end and the south end and the middle.
I think just going and talking to people. That's the people from Cardwell, and I use Cardwell for the south end because that's the farthest south you can go without running into Arkansas. Right. Just going down there and listening to what their needs were was a big thing. And then telling them, hey, I'm from the far north end. If farthest north, you guys are from the farthest south. I'm here for everybody. I'm not here just for Malden, not here just for Kennett. If you live in Dunklin County, that's who I'm here for, and just listen to those people and then showing up and trying to show that you do care made a big difference there, I believe. And
a number of people that I've talked to, and again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter, Dunklin County Sheriff on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And I know I'm not trying to talk about the person that you're following, Sheriff Bob Holder, but the number of people that had Sheriff Holder's cell phone number was amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
And his ability to send out the text of Happy Father's Day, Merry Christmas, have a great Easter was unbelievable to me. And I think one thing that I've talked to a bunch of people after your election was, hey, I really like that guy. He came and talked to me. He gave me his cell phone number. He likes to visit. He understands that sometimes a cell phone call to explain why we can't do something or why we can do something is worth $1 million to somebody.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not Bob Holder when it comes to sending out text messages. To be honest with you, I felt really special on Christmas. Any holiday, I got a text message from Sheriff Holder until I started talking to everybody else. Oh, yeah, I got the same message. And I'm like, well, mine wasn't sitting in a group message. Oh, mine wasn't either. I said, I can't do it. I just can't do it.
And again, we're here on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Dunklin County, Sheriff Nick Darter. Sheriff Darter, and I know that we've talked about this, but I think the people of the Dunklin County need to know. I've seen you work in the jail, bailiff, work at night, serve papers. In fact, I went one day to try to get something from the sheriff's office, and you were the one that came out and addressed the front window. Is there anything that you haven't been doing that you've really want to do at that sheriff's office yet?
No, not yet. Which I truly feel I can't tell somebody to do something if I don't know or if I'm not willing to do it myself. So I feel like, and I've still got a lot to learn. Don't get me wrong. But every chance that I get to learn something new, I figure out how to do it, and that way I can, one, be a better leader. Lead by example has been my philosophy my whole life. The guys did traffic enforcement this weekend. I was out with them this weekend. They got paid double time. I'm not getting paid for it. I just went out and worked alongside those guys just to show that, hey, you're going to do it. I can do it too.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter, Dunklin County Sheriff on KDX AM 1590. Welcome to the booth. We talked about a wide variety of things that's going on in the sheriff's office. Sheriff, in regards to one thing that a lot of people want to know, at one time there was some federal inmates, I believe, held at the jail in which we got paid by the U.S. government to hold those federal inmates. Where are we at in regards to that? I know that you said we have 181 inmates, and we can house about 185 or so. Where are we at on that, and what's your philosophy on that?
We're not nowhere near entertaining federal prisoners at this time. I think we're a few years down the road, potentially maybe bringing that program back to the sheriff's office. However, right now we're just not in the shape. Room wise, we don't have the room for it. Housing federal prisoners or federal inmates require a whole different standard than on the state level. So we're not in that position yet. Like I said, potentially maybe down the road in a few years, but not at this moment.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter, and welcome to the booth, KDX AM 1590, talking a little bit about law enforcement. And one thing that we didn't talk about, Sheriff, in regards to the jail, not only do you have to house these inmates while they're waiting for their court appearances, their jury trials, or to be transported to some other facility, is you also have to feed those individuals
3 times a week.
And tell us
or 3 times a day. Sorry, not a week.
And tell us a little bit about how that happens. How does that work? I can barely feed myself once a day, and you have to feed these individuals 3 times a day.
So we've got a food contractor, Summit Foods. They provide one employee per shift. The inmates, we have trustees that they cook and prepare the food, and then that one employee from Summit just make sure that everything's done like it's supposed to be done. And then those inmates prepare the food from scratch. They get it all out to they put them on trays, and then the COs pass out the meals 3 times a day. And
we're here with Nick Darter, the sheriff of Dunklin County, talking a lot about law enforcement issues in Dunklin County. Sheriff, if I was interested in becoming a CO or wanting to work for the sheriff's office, how would I go about doing that?
Swing by the sheriff's office, pick up an application, and fill it out, turn it in.
And is it that easy? Is there any kind of references do I need? Do I need to give any kind of transcripts or anything like that?
There's a page on the application for where you can list your references. You can turn in a resume with that if you'd like. It's not required. The only requirement we really have is not to be a convicted felon and be the age of 18 or older.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. And we talked earlier, Sheriff, you've indicated, and I've found this to be true. A lot of people want to start in their law enforcement career I want to be the guy on the road. And you indicated you would learn a lot by being a corrections officer and working your way up. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think being a corrections officer, I think you'd really know at that point in time whether or not you really want to be an officer or not. You have to be 21 to be in law enforcement in the state of Missouri. So the day you turn 18 and graduate, fill out an application, come work in the sheriff's office, work in the jail. I wish I'd have done that when I turned 18, because going to college didn't really pay for my law enforcement career. But you start in the jail. There's different jobs in the jail, but you start from the ground and work your way all the way to the top. Then you get to see most deputies now has worked in the jail at some point in time in their career, but you can tell the ones that hadn't worked in the jail. They just bring their guys, they dump them, and then they go on about their business. They really don't know what the jail consists of.
Absolutely. And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter, Dunklin County Sheriff, on the Welcome to the Booth with Daren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Because once you make the arrest and take them to the Dunklin County Justice Center in the jail there, they have to be fingerprinted. They have to be photographed. The paperwork has to be completed. You have to make sure that if there's a warrant, if there's a 24-hour hold, that's all completed, because you have to do everything by the book. And otherwise, there's ramifications. And one thing that I think is very unique, and it's kind of an weird question, I think we're very lucky here in Dunklin County. We have a couple of twins working, don't we?
We do. Well, we've got a set of triplets, and then we've got a set of twins.
So, and they all do excellent work for the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff, as we're wrapping up here, and I really appreciate the time because I know that you're covered up with things. You indicated there's some grant work and things of that nature. Is there anything really exciting that you're working on that you want to talk about, or is this going to be something you're going to talk about at a later date?
No, it's the grants that we're applying for now is really just for equipment. Most of them are equipment grants. One grant, the sheriff's office, I don't think has ever applied for it in the past. We're trying to get some flock cameras spread out through the entire county. I would love to be able to set a camera at every entrance in the county. That way you can't come in or leave Dunklin County without being caught on a camera. And we're not trying to spy or anything like that, but there's so many crimes that happen out in the county that they're right there on that county line, or they're coming from Arkansas. We want to catch those guys coming from Arkansas, coming over here committing crimes, and then trying to go back to Arkansas and not getting caught.
Absolutely. And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter from the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Dunklin County. And welcome to the booth with Daren Todd on KDEX AM 1590. Sheriff, one thing, then we'll kind of wrap up. It's my understanding if anyone has any concerns or questions about anything going on in the sheriff's office, they can call you anytime. Is that correct?
They can call me. They can come by. I don't turn anybody away at the door.
And again, Sheriff Nick Darter has been very gracious with his time. So we're going to wrap this up. Sheriff, is there anything that you'd like to leave the citizens of Dunklin County and the region with before we sign off?
I just want to kind of give a real quick comparison from last year in total, from January to December to January 1st this year to today's date. This year so far, since January 1st, we've conducted 1,076 traffic stops. We've issued 106 citations. We've answered 6,238 calls for service, and we've done 908 reports. Last year, all 12 months, there was 559 traffic stops, 14 tickets, 5,702 calls for service, with 936 reports. So we're at those numbers already this year, and we still got several months to go.
And again, we're here with Sheriff Nick Darter on KDX AM 1590. Welcome to the booth with Daren Todd. The sheriff's been gracious enough to give him some of his time today. And as we leave, Sheriff, one last thing, and real quick, I know that something that a lot of people are very impressed with is the number of sexual offender checks that you've been focusing on, the registrations and things of that nature. I know that's been a real priority for you, and it looks like it's really, really, really paying off. Is that correct?
It is. The numbers have, I don't know, they've tripled, if not quadrupled since last year. I just want to hold those guys accountable. Guys, gals, make sure they're not lying to us and out here doing wrong again. So some has left the county because they they're sick of deputies showing up and checking on what they're saying or what they're registering. So I mean that's a big part of me. I think the deputies have hit almost every one of them that we've got registered in the county. They kind of hit them hard the first of the year, and they'll go back and start back on them when it cools off a little bit.
And again, we're here on KDX AM 1590. Welcome to the booth with Daren Todd. We've been talking with Sheriff Nick Darter of Dunklin County, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Dunklin County. And on behalf of my fill-in producer, Misty Hankins, my main producer, Maureen Johnson, and my executive producer, Evan Todd, we'd like to thank you for making us part of your day, and we hope you have a good afternoon and a better tomorrow.